lecture from the series recorded by J. Krishnamurti. Today's subtitle, Intelligence and Hatred, will be heard at noon today. There are still a few minutes left. Each week at this time we're presenting Self-Knowledge, a series of 14 lectures by the unique teacher and worldwide lecturer J. Krishnamurti, who invites you to confront inner reality and thus find a richer life. These talks were recorded at Ojai in 1949, and the subtopic for today is Intelligence, Hatred.
For the last 3 weekends, we have been discussing in different ways the problem of self-knowledge and how it is necessary to understand the process of our own thinking and feeling. Without understanding oneself clearly and definitely, it's not possible to think rightly. But unfortunately, it seems to have left an impression among many, or at least those who are committed to a particular form of prejudice, which they call thinking, that this approach is individualistic and utterly selfish and self-centered and does not lead to reality, and that there are many paths to reality, and this particular approach of self-knowledge must invariably lead to inaction, to self-centeredness and individual ruggedness. Now, if you go into it very clearly and thoroughly, with intelligence, one sees that to truth there can be no path. There is no path as yours and mine. The path of service, the path of knowledge, the path of devotion, and the path of and any other innumerable paths that philosophers have invented, depending on their particular idiosyncrasies and particular neurological system. Now, if one can think clearly about this matter without prejudice, I mean by prejudice committed to a particular action of thought or belief, being utterly unaware that one particular form of thinking, one particular approach must inevitably limit, whether it is the path of knowledge or path of devotion or path of action, any particular path must invariably limit and therefore cannot lead to reality. Because a path of action or a path of knowledge in itself is not sufficient, surely. A man of learning, however erudite, however encyclopedic his knowledge may be, if he has no love, surely his knowledge is worthless. It's merely book knowledge. A man of belief, as we discussed, must inevitably shape his life according to the dogma, tenet that he holds, And therefore his experience must be limited. Because one experiences according to one's beliefs. And such experience can never be liberating. On the contrary, they are binding. And as we said, only in freedom can we discover anything new, anything fundamental. So the difficulty with the majority of us is, it seems to me, that as we are committed to so many beliefs, dogmas, that they prevent us from looking at anything new or fresh. And therefore, as reality or God, what you will, must be something unimaginable, must be something immeasurable, that the mind cannot possibly understand. Do what it will, it cannot go beyond itself. It can create reality in its own image, but it will not be reality. It will be only its own self-projection. And therefore, to understand reality, or for that immensity to come into being, one must understand the process of one's own thinking. That is surely an obvious approach. It is not my approach or your approach. It's the only intelligent approach. And intelligence is not yours or mine. It's quite beyond all countries and all powers, all religious and social left or right activity. It doesn't belong to any particular society or group. Therefore, without that intelligence, which surely comes into being only with the understanding of oneself, which does not mean, surely, emphasis on the individual. On the contrary, the insistence on a path or a belief or any ideology emphasizes the individual, though that individual may belong to a large group, identified with a large group. It's only mere identification with the larger does not mean that one is free from the limited individuality. So it is important, surely, to understand that reality, or God, or what you will, is not to be found through any particular power. The Hindus have very cleverly divided various types of human beings into various types and established powers for them. And surely any power which is the emphasis of individuality and not the freedom from individuality does not lead to reality, because it cultivates a particularity, and it's not the freedom from selfishness, from prejudice, which is so essential to understand. Therefore, we have been discussing for the last 3 weeks the importance of self-knowledge. And which is not emphasis on individuality at all. on the personal. If I do not know myself, I have no basis for thinking. Whatever I think is merely an imposition, external acceptance of various influences, circumstantial enforcements. Surely that's not thinking. Because I've been brought up in a particular society, left or right, and accept their ideology from childhood does not mean that I'm capable of thinking of life anew. I merely function in that particular pattern and reject anything that is given to me. Whereas to think rightly, truly, profoundly, one has to begin by questioning the whole environmental process and the influence of the environment from the outside, of which I am. And without understanding that process in all its subtlety, surely I have no basis for thinking. So, it is absolutely essential, is it not, that the mind must be, the process of the mind must be thoroughly understood. Not only the conscious, the upper level, the superficial level of the mind, but the deeper levels of the mind. Because it's comparatively easy to understand the superficial mind. Watch the reactions, responses, how one spontaneously acts and thinks, and watch it. But that is only a beginning, is it not? It is much more difficult to go more profoundly, more deeply into the question of the whole process of our thinking. And without knowing the whole process, the total process, what you believe, what you don't believe, what you think, whether you believe in masters, don't believe in masters, whether you believe in God or don't believe, is really irrelevant. It's almost immature. Now our problem is to not only to listen to another, use another as merely in relationship as a mirror in which we discover ourselves, but also to go much more profoundly. And that's where our difficulty lies. Few of us can throw off our prejudices, beliefs, and give up few societies and join new organizations or the many things that one does. But surely it is much more important, isn't it, to go below to the deeper layers of consciousness and find out exactly what is taking place. What are our commitments of which we are so unconscious, of our beliefs, of our fears, of which we are utterly unaware, which actually guide and shape our action. Because the inner always overcomes the outer. You may cunningly shape the outer, but the inner eventually breaks down the outer. In any utopian society, you may build a social order very carefully and very cunningly,